At 2.
I'll start at 6. Now Jacob's well was there. Yashua therefore, being wearied with his journey, sat thus on the well, and it was about the 6th hour. There cometh a woman of Samaria to draw water. Yashua saith unto her, Give me to drink. For his disciples were gone away unto the city to buy meat. Then saith the woman of Samaria unto him, How is it that thou, being a Jew, askest water of me, which am a woman of Samaria?
So obviously they don't usually have any interaction together, the Jews and the people of Samaria. So she says, how is it that you, being a Jew, ask water of me? Go on.
For the Jews have no dealings with the Samaritans. Yashua answered and said unto her, If thou knewest the gift of Yahweh, and who it is that saith to thee, Give me to drink, thou wouldst have asked of him.
No, he says to her, if you knew the gift of Yahweh and knew who it was that asked you to drink, you give him some water here, right? Go ahead.
Thou wouldst have asked of him, and he would have given thee living water.
See, now, he would have given her living water. Go on.
The woman saith unto him, Sir, thou hast nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. From whence then hast thou that living water?
Now, where do you have this living water? See, she doesn't know she's talking to Yahshua the Messiah during his ministry, right? And he is the living water. Okay, go ahead.
Art thou greater than our father Jacob, which gave us the well, and drank thereof himself, and his children, and his cattle? Yahshua answered and said unto her, Whosoever drinketh of this water shall thirst again. But whosoever drinketh of the water that I shall give him shall never thirst.
See, they'll never thirst again with the water that Yahshua will give you. Go ahead.
But the water that I shall give him shall be in him a well of water springing up into everlasting life. The woman saith unto him, Sir, give me this water, that I thirst not, neither come hither to draw.
Yeah, I'd like some of that. Well, you know, hey, we all want that water, right? Isn't that why we're down here? Go ahead.
Yahshua saith unto her, Go, call thy husband, and come hither. The woman answered and said, I have no husband. Yahshua said unto her, Thou hast well said, I have no husband. For thou hast had 5 husbands, and he whom thou now hast is not thy husband.
Now, how do you know that? Has he been in contact with her before? No. See, he knows all things. See, you had 5 husbands. Go on.
And he whom thou now hast is not thy husband, in that sayest thou truly.
Yeah, now you've got the 6th, and he's not your husband. Go on.
The woman saith unto him, Sir, I perceive that thou art a prophet.
Perceive thou art a prophet. Yeah, go on.
Our fathers worshipped in this mountain, and ye say that in Jerusalem is a place where men ought to worship.
Go down to 23rd verse, please.
23. But the hour cometh, and now is.
Now, Yahshua is saying to her that the hour cometh, and now is. Now, what hour is he talking about? Of course, if we go over to 2 Peter, we find out a day with Yahweh is 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is 1 day. And if you take 1,000 years and divide it by 24 hours in a day, you find out that how long is an hour? About 40 years? About 40 years, right? Well, look here. When Yahshua said the hour cometh and now is, all right, how old was he? He was in his ministry, right? So he wasn't even yet 40 years old. He hadn't been on the earth as the Messiah for quite an hour yet. So the hour cometh and now is. He's in that hour. All right? Go ahead. The hour cometh and now is. Read on.
But the hour cometh and now is, when the true worshipers shall worship the Father in spirit and in truth.
Now, wait a minute. The true worshipers are going to worship him at the temple down on straight. That isn't what it says, is it?
Mm-mm.
The true worshipers of Yahweh are going to worship him how? In spirit.
And in truth.
And in truth. Wait a minute. How are you going to worship him in spirit if you don't have the Spirit in you? See, doesn't that require that if you're going to worship Yahweh in spirit and in truth, that you have the spirit of Yahshua the Messiah in you? So the true worshipers are going to worship Him in spirit. And the other thing, you got to worship Him in truth. Didn't say in the laws of the Catholic Church, did it? The Roman Catholic Church. No, didn't say that, did it? It said in truth. Now, see, Dr. Henry Clifford Kinley had a vision in 1931, and the one thing he always said was, "You make me prove it to your satisfaction." Now, did you ever hear them say that in any church that you ever went to? No, they told you to just believe, right? Or think, come on, we're going to go on to heaven and we're going to find out what's there when we get there. Well, that's not worshiping Yahweh in spirit and truth, is it? Now, and go ahead, read on, because I think it says that He seeks such to worship Him, doesn't it?
For the Father seeketh such to worship Him.
That's what the Father seeks to worship Him. You got to worship the Heavenly Father in spirit and in truth. Read on.
Yahweh is spirit, and they that worship Him must worship Him.
We've already run into a problem here if we don't have the truth already, all right? And that because Yahweh is spirit. Now, what is spirit? Get out volume 1 of the Elohim books. I think it's page 21. Okay, 27. That's it right there. Okay, so this is page 27, volume 1 of the Elohim books. All right? For those of you online, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can download copies of the Elohim book if you go to idmrlansing.wordpress.com, and then up in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see a link for books and transcripts. All right, that'll connect you to a Google Drive where the Elohim books and all the transcripts and audios and study guides are. So they're easily downloaded on your computer or your tablet, whatever you have. It's idmrlansing.wordpress.com. So if you want a copy of the Elohim books, they're on there for you. Go ahead and read. Because we want to find out about Yahweh, because we want to worship Yahweh in spirit and in truth. That is what He wants us, how to worship Him, is in spirit and truth. There's no other way to do it that's correct. Everything else falls completely short. To just believe, you got to understand, you can believe a lie. You can believe an untruth. How about that? And you can believe it so fervently that it'll just take over on you. All right, go ahead and read there.
The title of this section is Yahweh is Pure Spirit, or Yahweh is All in All.
Now, we're talking about the Heavenly Father Yahweh, who is in a pure spirit state. Okay? Now, go ahead.
Inasmuch as we seek and desire to explain and show our concept and understanding of what Yahweh Elohim is.
Now, that's what Doc is seeking to do in this book here. All right? He's seeking to show what Yahweh really is. Read on.
What, where, when, and how He created or formed the angelic host.
Now that's what, where, when, and how He created the angelic host.
And the heaven and earth.
And the heavens and the earth. All right, go ahead.
It is also necessary that we produce sufficient concrete evidence.
Now there's what we do in this class that doesn't happen in any other religious organization. We produce enough concrete evidence Go on.
That our concept is both spiritually and scientifically verified by other witnesses.
That it can be verified by witnesses. Don't you need witnesses in a court of law to verify your guilt or innocence? Look at here. The whole world is guilty before Yahweh. Didn't Yahshua say He came for the sins of the world? Right? The whole world is guilty before Yahweh. Go on.
We have previously propounded to some extent that Yahweh is all in all.
Go on.
In the accompanying illustrations, Unity Part 1.
Now, this is the accompanying illustration that this is referring to in the textbook, right here. All right? This is talking about the unity of the Spirit. Yahweh is Spirit. And they that worship Him must worship Him how? In spirit and in truth. Read on.
In the accompanying illustrations, Unity, Part 1, and Eternity, pages 31 and 32, the author intends to show and prove the existence of Yahweh.
Now, author intends to prove the existence of Yahweh. Go on.
Yahweh first existed in totality as pure spirit.
First existed in totality as pure spirit. Now, you're going to ask me what spirit is, aren't you? Right? Huh? Did you ever go to your preacher and say, well, what is spirit? And the answer you got was, God is spirit. Right? Yeah. Well, then you say, well, what is God? What was the answer you got? God is spirit. Well, wait a minute. You didn't help me out at all here. You talked me around in a circle, and I didn't learn anything, and I don't feel any better for having had this conversation with you. All right? But Yahweh existed in pure spirit, in totality. All right? Go ahead.
That is to say, Yahweh is the ultimate source.
Now, that is to say that He's the ultimate source. If He's the creator and made this whole creation, folks, what did He make it out of?
Himself.
He made it out of spirit materialized. Go ahead.
The ultimate source.
So He's the ultimate source of everything.
Infinite and immaculate substance.
Now He's the infinite and immaculate substance. So He's the source and He's the substance. Read on.
The incomprehensible and inscrutable principle.
Wait a minute, stop. Those are really big words. Incomprehensible. You mean in His pure spirit state, we can't comprehend Him the way He is like that? No. Incomprehensible. And what? And inscrutable?
Uh-huh.
In other words, we can't scrutinize Him. We can't get outside of Yahweh, to look back on Him. Like, who arrived here tonight in a car? Now, you're driving down the road in that car, right? Can you see what that car looks like outside when you're inside the car? No. So you got to get outside the car and take a few steps back to look back upon it, to look and see the car, right? You can't do that with Yahweh, who's pure spirit. You can't step outside of pure spirit, because look at here. How can you step outside of pure spirit if He's the source and the substance of everything that you are? You're made out of spirit. You can't step outside of spirit. Does that make sense? So He's in this pure spirit state, the source, the substance, incomprehensible, folks, inscrutable. Read on.
The all in all.
He's the all in all, and that's all, folks. There is no other self-existing deity along with Yahweh. There's none other. That's it. Alone and by Himself in pure spirit state. Look at here. There's not a whole bunch of other pure spirit creatures. And the way it is, folks. It's Yahweh and Yahweh alone. Read on.
and eternal, independent,
He's eternal. He's independent. Go on. Self-existing. Deity.
without visible shape or form.
Without visible shape or form.
Deuteronomy 4 and 12.
Now that's in the pure spirit state. Okay, read on.
Therefore, he is within himself the sum total embodiment of all of the attributes of
He
intelligence.
is within himself the sum total embodiment of all of the attributes. Where's the attributes? What attributes are you talking about? Here's the attributes right up here. 9 principal divine attributes. Knowledge, intelligence, wisdom. I didn't say Yahweh was knowledgeable. He is the sum total of all knowledge. How about that? University folks, we just blew your brains out. He is the sum total of all intelligence. Now, some of you think that you're pretty intelligent, right? You don't even stand a chance. The sum total of all wisdom. The totality of it. Look, if you have any of these attributes, if you see any little piece of this attributes in you, it's because Yahweh gave that to you. Now that's knowledge, wisdom, intelligence, love. He isn't lovable.
Sure he is.
He is lovable. He is too lovable. He's the sum total of love. You know, and they got this thing down here today that God is love, right? And God is a loving God and all this stuff. Boy, these people, they don't really read and understand the Bible. Don't you know that Yahweh has wrath? Knowledge, wisdom, intelligence, love, beauty, justice, foundation, power, and strength. Read on.
He is the limit and bounds.
Limits. Hold it. Limits and bounds. Remember we said we can't get outside of Yahweh to look back on Yahweh to see what He looks like, to see anything about Him like that. Because look at here, it says right in Acts, I think it's the 17th chapter, that in Him we live and move and have our being.
Mm-hmm.
In Him. You can't get outside Yahweh more than you can get outside this physical universe. And guess what? That physical universe, as big as scientists are beginning to understand it is, that's inside Yahweh too. Now, comprehend pure spirit. Keep going.
The source and substance. Yahweh is the terminus ad quem.
He's the terminus ad quem. That's a Latin phrase, if I'm not mistaken, right? And the terminus ad quo. In other words, He's the beginning and the ending of the whole thing. He's the start, He's the finish. Look at here. When Elohim up here, you see Him in shape and form, that's an A. Get Him down here in His glory state, He's the author and the finisher. Doesn't it say Yahshua is the author and finisher of our faith? Go ahead.
This would be the next section.
Okay.
Yahweh is super incorporeal form.
Now, in order for Yahweh to manifest Himself to His creatures, because look at here. Let's have a little thing. Yahweh in His pure spirit state, the whole purpose was complete from beginning to ending before He took on shape and form as Yahweh Elohim. How are you going to understand that? Well, let's try and make it simple. Anybody in here ever gone to a movie? Anybody ever in here gone to a movie that was based upon a book? Right? Well, now the author wrote that book, right? And let's just say, for instance, it's a mystery, a story. Huh? Because truly Yahweh and his whole purpose, until this vision and revelation that was given to Dr. Henry Clifford Kinley, was a mystery, folks. A great big mystery none of us could understand. So look at here. The author writes the mystery book, right? And it's a really good story. So they decide to make a movie about it. Well, the book was written before the movie could be made, right? And then, after the movie's made, you can go watch it on the silver screen, right? So you see how it was written and then executed forth. Look at here. Yahweh had this whole plan and purpose. Now look, here it is right here. Because this is a chart on the pattern, or it doesn't say pattern and. It says pattern or plan of salvation. And that's Yahweh's whole purpose right there. Is salvation. Now look at, he did it by a pattern or a plan. Because when he brought these 9 principal divine attributes together into a superincorporeal form of Elohim, shape and form. This is the archetype, original pattern and plan of everything, folks. A heavenly anthropomorphic being. Now, what does that big word mean? Man-like? Huh? Look at here. If you go over and get Genesis in the first chapter, it says, let us make man in our image. Now, there's some things that you need to understand about the book of Genesis, first of all. First of all, the book of Genesis is a book of a vision that was given to Moses in Mount Sinai in 1490 BBY. That's 1490 years before the birth of Yahshua the Messiah. The book of Genesis is not a scientific account of the creation, folks. That's why scientists can't explain it. That's why who was it? Rhonda got up on the floor at the friends and family meeting and was talking about the monkey trial and how the minister in the monkey trial, he couldn't explain how on the third day of creation the plants grew up to fruition and the sun wasn't in the sky until the fourth day. Right? Have a problem with that. You know why? Because the book of Genesis is a book of a vision and a revelation that was given to Moses back here, 1490 BBY, confirmed by the vision that was given to the Apostle John on the Isle of Patmos in the Aegean Sea in AD 96, and further confirmed by the vision that was given to Dr. Henry Clifford Kinley in 1931. Okay? Now, where was I? Heavenly anthropomorphic. Because it says over there in Genesis, let us, better get it. I don't want to misquote it.
Genesis 1:26. And Elohim said, let us make man.
Now wait a minute. Honey, let us go out to the store together. That means the two of us are going to go, right? I want to know something. Who's helping Elohim? If he said, let us, is he talking to somebody who's going to help him? See, what you don't understand is Elohim is a pluralistic, divine title that Yahweh gave to himself in this superincorporeal shape and form right here. Okay? And that we can prove that. Look at here. Because the singular of Elohim is Eloah. So who's helping him? He doesn't need any help, folks. He is the creator. He's the all in all. Yahweh, Elohim, pure spirit is the all in all, manifested in supercorporeal shape and form. Let us, go on.
Let us make man in our image.
Make man in our image. Read on.
After our likeness.
After our likeness. Now I have a question. All you guys in here, y'all had a natural father, right? Do any of you look like your father a little bit, maybe? Huh? You ever look in the mirror sometimes out of just a slight glancing as you walk on by and you see your father's eyes looking back at you? Huh? You ever had that experience? I had. It kind of scared me a little bit because my dad and I were not great. Well, never mind. You don't want to go there. Let us make man in our image. Go ahead. Read on. I don't want to misquote it and mess it up.
After our likeness.
After our likeness. Read on.
And let them have dominion over the fish of the sea.
Now, wait a minute. It's going to be in our image and in our likeness. 1 Corinthians 6, 19 and 20. 1 Corinthians, what is it? The 3rd chapter. Because your body is made in the image and likeness of Yahweh Elohim. Yes, you did not evolve from lower life forms. No. The theory of evolution has been disproven enough times. We can disprove it even further if we want to go there. You did not evolve from lower life forms. If you did, why haven't you evolved further, you lousy human being? Huh? I mean, come on. Don't you think we get better than this? Huh? No. You're locked in right where you're at. You didn't evolve from lower life forms, so don't. No. Yes, there is adaptation of species. Okay. But you didn't evolve. All right. Let us make man in our image after our likeness. Look at here. In Moses' vision up here in Mount Sinai, 40-day vision, he saw Yahweh Elohim, as it were, standing on a paved work of a sapphire stone. You know what? We better get that. Exodus 24, 9. And wait a minute, you better go back and get another one too, that no man has seen God at any time. You know, that's a confusing statement too while we're on this subject. That's over in what? John, the 1st chapter?
Exodus 24:9 first?
John, the 1st chapter first.
John 1 and 18.
Thank you. Now this is John 1 and 18. Read on.
No man has seen the Father at any time.
Oh, you're reading the Holy Name version, aren't you?
You want the...
What's it say in King James? No man has seen God at any time. That's what it says in your Bible. You know, the Bible has problems too, folks, because it was translated by a bunch of guys, and the bunch of guys tried to agree on everything that it said. And you know what? They inserted a lot of words too, because if you have a real King James Version Bible, all right, little bit of Bible information here now. Words that are in italics have been added to the text by the translators. Yeah, those words weren't in the original text. You know, look at here. So in John 1 and 18, it says, no man has seen God at any time. Is that what it says? Yeah. Now, hold on to that statement for just a second. Go over to Exodus, the 24th chapter. Go ahead.
Exodus 24 and 10 or 9. I'll start 9. Then went up Moses and Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu.
Now, here's back here. After the exodus of Egypt and into the wilderness of Sinai, and after Yahweh spoke down the law, because the law was spoken down first before the vision, folks. The law came first. That signifies that the Spirit law up here came first, was the first thing. All right? Now, go ahead. Then went up Moses, Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu, and the 70 elders of Israel. Read on.
10. And they saw the Elohim of Israel.
Now, wait a minute.
And they saw the God of Israel.
Didn't we just read back there in John where it says no man has seen God at any time? And here 74 people see God. Now what are you going to give me some argument that that's the Old Testament and John's in the New Testament? Look at here. That's not true either. Okay? Because you're going to pull that one, and I'm going to pull the one on you that says in there that the New Testament is not written with pen and ink, but it's written on your heart or mind. In other words, the New Testament is not in that book. Okay? We got that straight? All right. So here, Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu, and 70 of the Israelites, and they saw, in King James Version, the God of Israel. Right? Mm-hmm. Who'd they see? They saw Yahweh, Elohim, in superincorporeal shape and form. Now, what did he look like? Read on.
And there was under his feet.
Hold it. Didn't say under his hoofs or his paws, did it? It said under his feet. Read on.
As it were a paved work of a sapphire stone.
Doesn't he say in there in the law and the prophets that heaven is my throne and earth is my footstool? So here he is. He's standing upon the earth. That's why it's a paved work of a sapphire stone. You've seen those pictures from the moon missions and stuff that look back on the planet Earth. It looks just like a sapphire stone to me. Read on.
And as it were, the body...
Wait a minute. He's got feet and he's got a body. Read on.
Of heaven in his clearness. And upon the nobles of the children of Israel he laid not his hand.
He laid not his what? His hand. He's got feet, body, and hands. That's who they saw back here, was Yahweh Elohim in this superincorporeal shape and form. And he said, let us make man in our image after our likeness. Look at here. Yahweh Elohim is the original archetype pattern of the universe. What Moses saw Yahweh Elohim change into up here was this tabernacle pattern. This thing up here, this tabernacle pattern. He was instructed to build this tabernacle out here in the wilderness of Sinai for Yahweh's dwelling place among the children of Israel, right? Because previous to that, Yahshua had his tent back here on the backside of the mount called the tabernacle of the congregation. Now look at here. Your physical body is built. Everything that has been created in this universe goes exactly by this tabernacle pattern. And it's as simple or as complex as you want to go with it. All right? Because look at here. You see the glory of Yahweh by how simple he has made this to be able to be understood even by a simple-minded people that we are. Because look at here. Tabernacle is a most holy place, a holy place, and a court round about. That's 3 tabernacles. 1 tabernacle. How can you prove that Moses saw a tabernacle back here in his vision and a revelation? Well, if you go down here to the transfiguration of Yahshua the Messiah, what does Peter say? Master, let us build here 3 tabernacles. Where did he get the idea about tabernacles? Because he heard it said back here. All right, this is the same vision, the same Yahweh Elohim here that it is here when Yahshua the Messiah transfigured before them. That's why Peter says, let us build here 3 tabernacles. Where did he get an idea like that? Because he heard it said, all right, and interpreted it wrong, but he heard it said, all right, that this is a 3-in-1 configuration that proves that Yahweh, Elohim, and Yahshua are not a trinity, folks, but a unity. And look at your physical body that is made in the likeness and the image of Yahweh Elohim. You have a head cavity, a chest cavity, and an abdominal cavity. And those 3 must remain intact for you to live. Now, you can lose. Look at here, the soldiers come back from war and they miss an arm or they miss a leg and they can survive like that, right? But they don't come back without an abdomen. They don't come back without a head, and they don't come back without a chest, because if you do, you're usually called a corpse, all right? Now look at here. This head cavity, chest cavity, and abdominal cavity. All right, well, okay, so you got arms and legs. You know what? You're fortunate. You're lucky to have all your arms and legs. And look here. There's 12 tribes that camped around this tabernacle in the wilderness back here, and these arms and legs are the 12 tribes that camped around your tabernacle back here. There was a cloud above this tabernacle back here in the wilderness of Sinai, and when the cloud got up and moved off this tabernacle, these children of Israel packed up and they followed that cloud. Now we hope that you have a cloud in your skull up here, which is called a brain, that keeps your body functioning, and you can use it to think and learn and reason with reasonable doubt, and that this is the truth from Yahweh Elohim that explains the mystery of the creation and everything in it, and it explains the truth about the pattern and plan of salvation, which is His purpose. Thank you very much.
Hallelujah.
Our next speaker for this evening will be Dr. Alice Player.
Good evening. Well, that's a surprise. Good evening again. It is indeed a pleasure to come before you and share with you what Yahweh Elohim has revealed to me. You know, it sounds like that's a powerful statement. Because, you know, I used to sit there and wonder, well, why me? But I remember before I came to this teaching, before Yahweh brought me in here and sat me down and showed me something about Himself, I was at a low point in my life, and I remember asking God why. I remember I had a baby, a young child. He was less than a year old. I had gone through a divorce, and I was living with a friend. Just a very low point in my life. And I remember sitting on the stairs of this apartment of this friend, and I remember lifting my eyes up at it and saying, God, why? And shortly after that, and I can't give you the exact time, but I was sitting on the porch in this townhouse apartment complex, and there were neighbors to my right, still clear in my mind. There were neighbors to my right. It was a couple that had children, and our children were the same age, and they were playing. And I was working at Michigan State University. I was a clerical, making very low wages, and life just sucked. I just say that, just sucked. And I had been playing intramural sports at MSU, and my ex-husband at the time knew David Underwood. And I was playing softball, as a matter of fact, and David probably can testify to this. And so I knew David from my ex-husband's association. And so I was sitting on the porch, and then I hear these people singing to my right. And I look over at some point, and there's David on that porch with these people singing. And I was like, you know, so after that, I can't remember exactly, but I was invited to come to class. And the class, I think, was in the basement of this couple in this apartment complex in which I lived, which was right next door. So I went in, and we were down in the basement. You know, I'm talking about one of these old basements that, this cement, okay, maybe a little tiny window, but the charts were on the wall. And I came down and I sat down, and I was like, what the? Because I accepted that invitation. When they invited me, I accepted that invitation. I can't tell you why, but I accepted the invitation. I can tell you why now, but at the time I couldn't even imagine why. Because I didn't know these people, but I did know David. So I came, and I walked down the basement, and these charts were laid out, similar to this. There weren't that many, but I remember this chart, the chart on the pattern and plan of salvation. And I don't remember who the speaker was to this day, but I remember there was an introduction to Yahweh Elohim and Yahshua as he really is and actually exists. And they explained the name very, very methodically. And I remember having those aha moments because I've been raised in the Baptist church. And I had some background about, or I thought I had some background about God. But everything they said, there was this click that, yeah, that's right, that's what that means, yeah. So I think the thing that really got me was when they took the name Yahweh and showed me how the Yahweh was all throughout this creation. That was the turning point for me, because I was very observant about nature. I'm a nature lover. I like flowers, I like trees. And when they said that the tree testifies to the name Yahweh, and they said not only does the branches testify to the name Yahweh. Now, I mean, see, for everybody that comes in here, there is something about, Yahweh uses something about himself in this creation to make a point with each individual. And for me, it was the things that were here. And this person went over, this chart here is the Creator imaged by his creation. Now, at the time, this chart was not, I didn't know anything about this chart. This chart, I don't even think was, had even come about. But I'm so glad it's here now, because now what this chart does is it just shows that exactly what it says. It's the Creator imaged by his creation. So everything in the creation is made according to the image of Yahweh. And so just so happens a tree is testifying to Yahweh. So this particular person, and for lack of a better way of saying it, so it wasn't the person, it was Yahshua introducing himself to me. He said, the trees have branches and they branch off into Ys. And I remember them putting their hands up. I was like, yeah. And he says, not only that, the tree has roots and they branch off into Ys. Why a Y? Why not J for Jesus? And then and I think this was the thing that got me. He says, now if you do see a J in a tree, it's usually deformed. And I was like, yep, you're right. So I was like, all having these little moments. And then they went on to say how the lightning. Now, that was the thing that got me, because I was always afraid of lightning. As a child, I grew up, not only I grew up in a Baptist house, I grew up in a Southern Baptist home, where when there was lightning and thundering, you had to sit your butt down. TV was not on, the lights weren't on, you weren't allowed to take a bath. You know, it was like we had to just sit there because we had to respect nature or respect God. And so I was afraid of lightning. Like I said, I grew up in Mississippi, and the storms were really bad. And I remember my grandmother had we had an old house with a metal roof. So you didn't mess around when it was lightning. So she was like, baby, sit your butt down. And that's what we did. And I saw the lightning strike an oak tree in front of the house. So we had respect for lightning, and I was afraid of lightning. And this particular speaker said, the lightning branches off into wise. I had never seen that before. I was right. Who's going to look outside and see lightning? I was somewhere cowering, you know. But it was true. The lightning branched off into wise. But I had been fed this image of an old man up in the sky throwing down lightning bolts, Z's. Now, a Z, really? Well, that's because we were been fed and told that Zeus was the god of the sky. And then this particular person, I remember him saying, well, it's not Zeus. In fact, we're calling him Jesus, which is a hybrid name, which takes you back to Zeus. And I was like, what? What? Yay, Zeus? It's not Jesus, and it's a form of that erroneous God that's up there in the sky that I thought was up there moving pieces around like in Greek mythology. Because I mean, really now, that's what I grew up watching Hercules. I did. So that was another thing, you know. So throughout this class, all these points were being making me think about everything that I had learned about God was totally wrong. It was totally off. And how old was I at that time? I think I was about 27, 9. I've come to know that we're all never really go past age 9, but that's a whole nother story. So then this particular speaker continued to talk about how that the name was not Jesus, that there was no J in Hebrew, Greek, or Latin, and neither was there a letter J in the English language until some 14 to 1600 years after the one that they called Jesus, after his death. So by this time I'm like, I don't know whether to be pissed off or to be, just really happy. And then the person went on to say that Jehovah was an erroneous rendering of Yahweh. Now, my family, I have a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses in my family. My aunts, my grandmother, my beloved grandmother was a Jehovah's Witness. And I was like, no way. So there's no J in Jehovah, there's no J in Jesus. There's not even a sound in the Hebrew language. So what was his mother calling him? And this person went on to explain how that the J derived from the I and the I from the Y. So me being working at MSU in the library, I flew into the research section at MSU and I started pulling out the books, and lo and behold, it was true. I looked up Tetragrammaton, which are the 4 Hebrew letters that have been translated into YHWH. Tetra means 4, and grammaton means letters. So 4 letters. And I was taught that the name Yahweh is the true original name. That Yahweh is pure spirit. He's the substance, essence of all things. And let's get Deuteronomy 6 and 4. And for the first time in my life, I heard that Yahweh Elohim is a unity, because I had been taught all my life that there was a Trinity. So can you get Deuteronomy 6 and 4?
Deuteronomy 6 and 4. Hear, O Israel, Yahweh, our Elohim, is a unity.
That was the only scripture that I heard to explain. I was like, and that person said, well, there is no word, there's no Trinity. The word Trinity is not in the Bible, but the word unity is. And then they got Deuteronomy 6 and 4. Well, this person went on to explain how the Yahweh is pure spirit. And in that state and condition, we can't see him. But what he did was, because he's merciful, he came out of that state into this state, the superincorporeal, the Elohim, the superincorporeal form, manifesting in visions to Moses, John, and the prophets. So, just briefly, I don't know which one would be a better explanation, but these are points that I don't know why I understood them, but they rang true with me. So he's pure spirit, we can't understand him, but he comes on down into a lesser state as Elohim, and that's where he's visiting us in visions, and he's revealing himself. And then he comes on down into this lowly state, this human form, like sinful flesh. Now I'll read that. Yahshua, physical form, not human, but physical form of Yahweh manifesting in the flesh, John 1 and 14. And the way that they made me understand that was they used water. I could understand that. They said water exists in 3 states and conditions. It exists as a gas, a liquid, and a solid. Now, mind you, I was not very, and when it comes to science, I was a little slow. I'll just say that. It was not my big, I wasn't interested in science. I was a reader. I was into literature and stuff like that. But science and math, whew, but that's part of that upbringing too, and that's a whole nother story. So when they said gas, and they said, well, you know, there's gas in the room. And I was like, okay. Water exists in a gaseous state. If it isn't in this room, you'd be dead. You wouldn't be able to breathe. That made sense. And it says when that gas, when you cool it down, it becomes liquid. Correct? I was like, yep. And then they used ice, a glass. He says you fill it with water, you fill a vessel with water, and it takes on that shape and form. There's water in there, and it's in the shape and form of this container. I was like, that makes sense, right? And then, and I remember it was summer, and it was hot. He says, well, when you cool that water that's in here on down, and it freezes, it's solid. Now, he's talking about Yahweh, Elohim, and Yahshua. He's talking about the one creator of heaven. This is one name, by the way, because Yahweh is Elohim. That's his title that he gave himself. And Yahweh willed salvation, and that's what Yahshua means. Yahweh is salvation. Shua means salvation. He came in his Father's name, John 5 and 39, 40, 43. And so when he said that he came on down into this physical body, and it's like ice. He cooled on down, and it became solid. Now, see, these were concepts that were making sense to me. So you got pure spirit, you've got the shape and form, like the liquid, taking on the form of that bottle of water, and then you've got, and if I were to put that bottle of water in the freezer, at 32, it freezes, right? And he made this comment that he was what? 30? 33. And it's like the ice. And then this person said, and ice floats on water. And I was like, and then he said, remember, Joshua walked on the water. I was like, whoa, blew my mind. And these are all little points that physical things that he's allowing me to see about a spiritual creator. So I left that class, like I said, ran to the library, and I started looking up some of the very basics, like the name of Yahweh. And I found out that that name has been around since the very beginning. And it's in all the documents. It was everywhere. And so my next question is, well, what happened? What happened? Why is Reverend, I won't use his name, why is Reverend calling him God? And why is Reverend calling him Jesus? And why aren't they telling us the truth? So I went home to my mom and dad. And I want to say exploded with all of this information. And my mom and dad sat there like, what the, who has bewitched you, pretty much? What has gotten into you? And I couldn't let it rest. So the more I went to class and heard the gospel being preached, and so, the more I came, because see, you don't get it all at once. You have to continue, and it's just like a baby. You do not feed a baby steak when it's born. You don't even feed a baby solid food when it's born. The baby has to suck the sincere milk from the breast. A woman, and let me tell you something. When I came into the school, the food was already there. Well, when a baby is born, the milk is already there. The sincere milk, especially the colostrum, because everything that baby needs that's going to protect him for a couple of years is in that sincere colostrum that baby is going to suck from the mother on this side, here a little, and there a little. And I'm Isaiah 28, and so the baby sucks a little bit on this side, and he sucks a little bit on this side. Likewise, when you come into the school, you get a little bit of this, and you get a little bit of that. You get the law, you get it from the law, so that's where we first started, was in Moses. And I want to start with Moses, because that was like the nail that sealed me in here, was the story of Moses. So you get a little bit here and you get a little bit there. Isaiah 28, 9 and 10.
Isaiah 28, 9 and 10. Whom shall he teach knowledge? Mm-hmm. And whom shall he make to understand?
I had not ever heard that I could be taught knowledge about my Creator. Continue.
And whom shall he make to understand doctrine?
So he's going to make us understand doctrine. And what does the word doctrine mean? To teach. Go ahead.
Them that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast.
So we're going to be weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast. Continue.
For a precept must be upon precept.
And it's going to be with principles or precepts. And that is what I first saw when I came into the school, was this chart on the pattern of plan, because it has principles lined up. Continue, Graciela.
Precept upon precept.
So these principles of blood form a line. There are points of blood. So there's a point, 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 there's a point. Right here it says blood. Continue.
Line upon line.
So the blood is below the water. So here we go. We have the water, the sweat of Adam. We have the flood here with Noah. We have the sweat on Isaac. We have the water of the Red Sea. We have the laver here in the interior pattern. And we have Yahshua's baptism, and it right here with water. And so you have water on top of the blood, line upon line.
Line upon line.
And then you have the spirit, which is on top. So you have blood, water, spirit. So you have spirit with the angel. You have spirit with this closing of, that gave this vision, this angel. You've got the vision that gave Abraham, that staved his hand. You've got the vision of the angel here in the cloud. You've got the oil that represents spirit, because oil floats on water. Then you've got the spirit, or the dove, that abodes on Yahshua the Messiah. And it's on the same line right here, blood, water, spirit. So you've got line upon line. And so now this is where it got me. Those all are pointing to Yahshua the Messiah. And they were all the stories that I had heard growing up while I was in church. But nobody had ever set it up like that. So I would go to the vacation Bible school, and I was made to go. I was made to go to Sunday school. I had never heard the Bible. I had never heard that this is what it was really all about. I was told that those stories were for me to be a better person, so that I could be Christ-like. Totally opposite of what it was really showing me. So I'm learning that there's blood, water, spirit, 40, death, burial, resurrection in each one of these plates, and that they're line upon line, here.
Here a little, and there a little.
So they're here a little, and there a little.
For with stammering lips and another tongue will he speak to this people.
So it's being it is repeated over and over. So you're going to hear blood here with Adam, blood here with Noah, blood here with Abraham, blood with the children of Israel, blood here in the interior pattern on the altar of sin sacrifice, blood with Yahshua, and then the blood and these are the witnesses that are in the earth, that are pointing to the three that are in heaven. So please go over to Moses, please. Exodus, I'm trying to decide if I want to go to 1 or 3. Let's go to 1. The birth of Moses. Or is that 2? That was 2. 2. So let me say this. This is the interior pattern, the pattern or plan or law. Let me put my glasses on. Pattern or plan. Then they give Isaiah 8:20. So you can get that too, because I'm going to read some scriptures here, because I want to kind of do this interior pattern. Then I want to go over to Moses.
Isaiah
8:20, to the law and to
Isaiah
the testimony.
8:20, to the law and to the testimony. If they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no light in them.
So Isaiah 28, 9, and 10 said, line upon line, here a little and there a little. So you have to go to the law and the testimony. The law being the first 5 books of the Bible that Moses wrote, or he's the celebrated writer, and the testimony being the remaining 34. So you've got that making up the Old Testament. And then you've got Yahshua telling the disciples in Luke 27, is it 27 or 24 and 27? 24 and 27. Can you get that, please?
Luke 24 and 27, and beginning at Moses and all the prophets.
So back up, because we're going to find out that this is the Messiah is speaking here. And he is the one that's saying, and beginning at Moses and all the prophets. So Moses would be the law, and the prophets would be the testimony. You've got the Messiah himself saying he began with the law and the prophets. Continue, Gracella.
And beginning at Moses and all the prophets, he expounded unto them in all the scriptures the things concerning himself.
Now, at the time, there were no other scriptures other than the law and the prophets. There was no Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, what the world considers the scriptures now. The only scriptures that existed was the law and the prophets. So you've got Yahshua himself saying, and we already excluded that it wasn't Jesus, Yahshua, because his mother was not calling him Jesus. His mother was saying Yahshua, because the J derived from the I and the I from the Y. And he came in his Father's name. And he had a purpose and a mission, and that mission was to save the world from their sins. So he's Yahshua. Yah saves, is saving. Yahweh is salvation. So he's saying, and beginning with Moses and all the prophets,
and beginning at Moses and all the prophets, he expounded unto them in all the scriptures the things
what does the word
concerning,
expound mean?
to go into great detail.
So he went into great detail. Now read it again.
And beginning at Moses and all the prophets, he expounded unto them in all the scriptures.
So he explained to them in great detail in all the scriptures, the law and the prophets. Continue.
The things concerning himself.
So you're saying, so he's saying that he was back there in the law and the prophets. And he's telling you the things in great detail about himself in the law and the prophets. So how is that so? And then there's another scripture that says,
Luke 24:44. And he said unto them, These are the words which I spake unto you while I was yet with you, that all things must be fulfilled which were written in the law of Moses and in the prophets.
So what he's saying right there is that this is why I came in. This is my mission. I came in to fulfill all the things that are written back there in the law and the prophets. So and what did he say? He began with Moses. So let's go back to Moses.
Exodus 2 and 1. And there went a man of the house of Levi and took to wife a daughter of Levi.
So Moses' physical parents were Levites. They were from the Levitical priesthood. And it's when you come to this, the more you come to this school, you'll learn that the Levitical priesthood had a dude. They were a part of the children of Israel. I'll just say that. Continue.
And the woman conceived and bare a son. And when she saw him that he was a goodly child, she hid him 3 months.
So why would she be hiding him?
Death decree.
Because there has been a death decree that has gone out beforehand by this particular Pharaoh, who is looking for, well, he's not looking, I'm thinking about Yahshua, because this story of Moses and the death decree is a type and shadow of the story with Yahshua the Messiah when he's born under a death decree. And that's an example of what he means by, you'll find me in the law and the prophets, because they are testifying of me. So you've got Moses back here, being born under a death decree, and his mother is hiding him Continue.
And when she could no longer hide him, she took for him an ark of bulrushes, and daubed it with slime and with pitch, and put the child therein, and she laid it in the flags by the river brink. And his sister stood afar off to wit would be done to him.
So here's another little point of interest. She put him in an ark to hide him. Now, there was an ark. There was another ark back here during the time of Noah. But what we're going to find out down here with Yahshua the Messiah, he is called the Ark of Salvation. So you're going to find that ark, you're going to find that line that is going to line up. That's another principle, another point that's going to line up. That's going to go right down to Yahshua the Messiah. Continue, Tim.
And the daughter of Pharaoh came down to wash herself at the river, and her maidens walked along by the riverside.
So we have the death decree. We have the water where she's laid Moses by the flags by the water. So you have death, a burial because he's buried in that ark. You have blood because when you have a bunch of babies being killed, and that's exactly what was going on. They were killing those babies. And they were killing them. And I won't be graphic, but they were killing those babies. And there was a lot of bloodshed. So there's blood, there's water. Continue.
And when she saw the ark among the flags, she sent her maid to fetch it.
So she sends her maid, who happens to be Moses' sister, to fetch it. And that's a resurrection, because if that baby had stayed out there, it would have died from neglect, from exposure, right? So that was a form of a resurrection when she sent that maiden to fetch him. And then she continues, she brings that baby to Pharaoh's daughter.
6. And when she had opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the babe wept. And she had compassion on him and said, "This is one of the Hebrews' children."
Now Yahshua fulfilled that when Yahshua, his whole mission was to fulfill. And I never knew why that baby wept. But Yahshua came in, and there's a scripture that says that Yahshua wept. Because I grew up hearing, and I had to say it when I said had to eat my food. I couldn't eat my food without saying a blessing first. And I had to say, Jesus wept. Well, now I know why Yahshua wept. Because he's fulfilling. And it's throughout all of the scriptures. He's fulfilling the scriptures to a jot and a tittle. And there's a scripture that says exactly that. Continue, Tim.
Then said his sister to Pharaoh's daughter.
Now, why is his sister, Moses' sister, in the company of the princess, of the king of the whole world, the mightiest ruler of that time? Continue.
Something to think about. Shall I go and call to thee a nurse of the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for thee? And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, Go. And the maid went and called the child's mother. So
you've got Moses being, Yahweh just worked. It's just a beautiful thing. He set it up so that the very person that the mother put him, that baby was at jeopardy, because first of all, there was a death decree. Then she put him in that ark and set him by the flags. He's still at jeopardy. There's still a possibility, not knowing. And you got to know now, this is a river, and there's animals, there's wild animals. And they worshipped crocodiles. They worshipped alligators. That was a part of their worship. That was one of those gods that Yahweh struck down during those 10 plagues. But that baby is by the river. Now, also, why is Pharaoh's daughter down at a dirty river? She's got the means she's got people that bathe her. So she doesn't really need to come down there to bathe. So apparently, she is looking for something. And we know that the now, at that particular time, brought forth, it was fertile. It's what fertilized the land. And she was there because she wanted a child. And that's what Yahweh gave her, was that child. He gave her what she wanted. And not only that, so you got Yahshua. Now remember, Yahshua said, and beginning in Moses. Why is that all important? Because it's all pointing to Yahshua the Messiah. There's nothing in about that story that does not point to Yahshua the Messiah. Continue.
And Pharaoh's daughter said unto her, Take this child away and nurse it for me, and I will give thee thy wages.
So Moses' mom, who had put him in the ark, is going to take care of her baby anyway. She doesn't lose her child. Yahweh saves that baby. That's a form of salvation. So Yahshua is salvation. That's what his name means. Yahweh is salvation. So Moses is saved that day. And he's raised up out of that ark. And when she raises him up, I'm sure, as any woman who loves her child, who loves her baby, every one of my babies, I loved them and I held them to my bosom and I kissed them and I fed them. Moses is no different. So that was a form of salvation. Continue, Tim.
And the woman took the child and nursed it.
Mm-hmm.
And the child grew, and she brought him unto Pharaoh's daughter.
So when you nurse a child, right? Now we're going back to the principle of the law and the prophets. You nurse them a little on this side and a little on that side. So what happens? The child grows. That's a principle of growing in the spirit. Right there with that particular scripture. So the child grew and
he became her son. And she called
and that's what we want to become, is his son. Not I mean, even me as a woman, I am a son. I'm also a wife. You got all those principles of it's what Yahshua is showing us, that's what we are. I'm sorry, continue.
And she called his name Moses, and she said...
And she gave him a name. Just as when you come in here and you find out that the name is Yahshua, Yahweh, Elohim, and Yahshua, you are given a name. That when I adopted my children, I adopted 2 boys. They had another name. One was a Jones, and one was a Trigg. Well, when I adopted them, they became players. Okay, we get a lot of jokes about that last name. Lots of jokes about that last name. But the principle is that they became our name. Every one of our children became a player. And when we went before the court, that name that they had previously, when we went before the judge, that name that they had previously became non-existent. And I got a whole new birth certificate that said that child is mine and I'm the mother and his name is Player, for both spiritual principles. So when you come in here and Yahweh sits you down and shows you all the things that you once knew about him, it goes. And you become a son with the name of your Heavenly Father. That's what a surname is. And doing genealogy, you know, when I was born, and this is another story, another side note. I was born out of wedlock. My mom was 16 when she had me. And like I said, I was from Mississippi. And at that time, you weren't allowed to, my mother couldn't give me my dad's name. It was just not allowed at that time. See, now you can have a baby out of wedlock by a man and you can give him that name. But I can't, that couldn't happen back there. And I want to give you a funny story. What happened was, I was trying to get my passport some years ago. and went to get my passport. Don, his went through, and for some reason mine just was, they couldn't come up with the information they needed from me for this passport. And so the lady, she says, could you be adopted? I was like, no, I'm not adopted. My mom and dad, my last name is Coney. And so I went out to the car. They couldn't do the paperwork because they didn't have what they needed. So I got in the car, I was like, Ma, and I was giggling and laughing. They can't get my passport. They said I should ask you if I'm adopted. And Mom was like, well, yeah, you were. I was shocked. My father, even though my mom married him, my name was not my name wasn't Coney. My name was Connerly. I had taken on the name of my mom's father. And so when I got my original birth, so therefore I had to go and get my birth certificate and have it all changed. It was a process. Got it. It was the first time I was, what was I, 50 something? I was 40s, 50. All that time I didn't know that my name was Alice Connerly. All those years, Alice Lorraine Connerly. And I was just totally shocked. My dad had to adopt me. My father had to adopt me in 1957. I got all the paperwork. I had to go before a judge, and my dad had to say, I'm adopting you, and I'm giving you my last name. My father had to give me his name. That's the whole point. Your father gives you your name. When you come into the school, you are given your name. You are of the family of Yahshua. Likewise, when I adopted my boys, when I went before the judge, Don and I, we had to take an oath, and we had to say that we would take care of those children like they were ours. You know, they were our children, and they had everything that my natural children had. Those children had the same privileges. So all these little things, I'm relaying these because these are personal experiences, but they weren't just things that were just haphazard. They were all showing me about Yahweh, Elohim, and Yahshua, and how I fit into all of this. See, that's the thing. At one point, we were told that we didn't exist, that you didn't matter. Well, if we didn't matter, then none of this stuff that happened to me would have any significance. That's the word I'm trying. There would be no significance. But for me to find out that I was adopted, to see the paper that says my name is Alice Lorraine Connerly, I was like, that was so foreign to me. I had never been called that. My mother said, at the age of, when you were 4 years old, your father had to adopt you, 1957. And that's when I became Coney. And all these years I was thinking that my maiden name was Coney. That was an eye-opener. So I'm just, he does what he has to do to get you. At some point, your eyes are going to be opened that this is what this is. Everything you see here in this creation, every experience you have, when you ask the Father to show you how he is and how he really exists, he's going to do that. But your heart has to be sincere. And it took a long time for me to see some of these things. It took a lot of whoopings. And I guess one of the things that for me, this is a testimony. So on the 10th plague, there were 9 devastating plagues. Yahweh tore Egypt up. And on that 10th plague, he took Pharaoh down to his knees by taking his firstborn. Now, you can read that about where he devastated the land. I had no idea what that meant until I lost my firstborn. He devastated this land this body. Everything about me was devastated. I was devastated. I was so devastated that I got pneumonia. Because see, when you're grieving, your immune system just goes to you don't have one. I got pneumonia and all of these things, that sicknesses. That's when it all started to happen. My body just went downhill. I ended up with diseases that I didn't think I would ever get, and so I was devastated. But Yahweh had to bring me through that so that I could see him. Because I was mad. Why did you take my son? You know, why? Why me? Why out of everybody? Why did you take my son? But it was because I had to see him. But along the same lines, I saw my son after he died. And I haven't told a lot of people that. He came to me. I remembered who that lady was I was telling you about. It was Lois White. Lois White came to me after the death of my son, and I was still grieved for a long time. And she says, "Has your son appeared to you? Have you had your dream?" I was like, and at the time, I had just had that dream of my son. See, Yahshua is your comforter. He is the comforter, and he's going to manifest that. And he had one, and I don't know if I was, and I tell people, I don't know if I was asleep or what, but he brought Trey to me in a dream, and he was beautiful. And I can't, and for a long time, Don will tell you, I couldn't put words on what I saw because it was so pretty. He was beautiful. He was so pretty. And he got up. He had been laying down, and he got up. And he walked to me and he said, Mom, and he was smiling, his teeth were like, and his skin was glowing, and he had on the suit that we buried him in. He had on that suit, and I had liked that suit on him. And he said, Mom, why are you crying? But he didn't say it like that. He said, Mom, and he was smiling. He said, Mom, I'm so happy. And I couldn't answer him, like, I don't know why I'm crying. But I remember waking up from wherever I was, whatever that was. I woke up, and I began to be okay. And then I talked to other people. When I talked to Lois White, she said that same thing happened to her. And then I talked to another brethren down in Toledo, and she said the same thing happened to her. The same, using almost the same description. That's how I know Yahshua is the comforter. Yes. John 14:26, he comforts us. Even though he takes us through all this, he's still our comforter. And because he loves us, because if he's not chastising us, you don't love a child if you let him do it. I can't stand a parent who let their child just do everything. I just want to go whoop him myself. Like, well, you can't do that now. No, you can't do that. So he chastises us so that he can bring us to a more profound understanding of who he is and how he really is and how he exists. And I'm so thankful for that. It took me a long time to be able to say those words. Donna tell you. I'm gonna name my next child Donna tell you. But I can smile and I can laugh now through a lot of the tears that I couldn't at some point, but I know that was all for me. And that's what I saw with Pharaoh when he devastated the land, because Pharaoh lost his firstborn. And it was funny because when Sue was talking the other day, and he got right back up and he went back to where he was. That's a power. That's power that Pharaoh didn't have. That was Yahweh. Because anybody else, you see, I told you I was on my knees crying for years because I lost my son. And he's back up, hell-bent on killing those Israelites. So with those words, I'll say hallelujah, and I'm just thankful to be a part of the body of Yahshua the Messiah.
Thank you. That brings a close to our session for this evening. Are there any comments or questions? Our classes are held every Wednesday and Friday from 7 to 9 p.m. and on Sundays from 11 to 1. May we stand to be dismissed? Now unto him who is able to keep you from falling and to present you faultless before the presence of his glory, with exceeding joy, to Yahweh, the only wise Elohim, our Savior, through Yahshua the Messiah, our Sovereign, belong glory, dominion, majesty, and power, both before all time, now and forever. Let us all say,
Hallelujah.
Still, child, let me make you my soldier for truth. It's such beauty, yeah, yeah. Wear it as your armor. He said, peace, be still, child, and let me lift you over and over and over and over. Troubles on my right side and loneliness to my left. I didn't think I belonged anywhere. I even cried when I slept. The burdens got so heavy, and I changed my name to despair. In the darkness came a light, and someone standing there, my Savior and his glory. I ran for comfort when he said, peace, be still, child, and let me lift you over. He said, peace, be still, child, let me make you my soldier for truth. It's such beauty, yeah, yeah. Wear it as your armor. He said, peace, be still, child, and let me lift you over and over and over and over. You should open, shut, and knock at your door. I did, and I know just what I'm pressing towards. I'm so glad I turned aside to see this great, great sight. All his sheep know his voice. From the beginning I had no choice. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. He said, peace, be still, child, and let me lift you over. He said, peace, be still, child, let me make you my soldier for truth. It's such beauty, yeah, yeah. Wear it as your still, children, peace. Be still, children. He's in complete control. Elohim is running his show, yeah. He's in complete control. Elohim is running his show. Freedom of choice is the law they're spreading around. Divine intervention is nice if God is ever around. They don't wanna believe their every step was patterned by him, that he's got it wrapped up tight, line upon line. They're going back to spirit again. He's got it wrapped up tight, line upon line. They're going back to spirit again. They don't know he's in complete control. Elohim is running his show. He's in complete control. Elohim is running his show. He's Alpha, Omega, Almighty Creator, first cause of creation, the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. Alpha and Omega, Almighty Creator, first cause of creation, the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. Of the world. You see, he told Jeremiah, I made you a prophet long before this earth had shape without form, before it was void. Yeah. He said, I possessed your ways before I made the deep blue sea. I am the cause, the reason for it all, and all I had to do was speak. Yes, I am the cause, the reason for it all, and all I had to do was speak. They don't know he's in complete control. Elohim is running his show, yeah. He's in complete control. Elohim is running his show. He's Alpha, Omega, Almighty Creator, first cause of creation, the Lamb slain from the Lamb slain from the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. Alpha and Omega, Almighty Creator, yeah, first cause of creation, the Lamb slain from the Lamb slain from the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world, of the world, of the world, of the world. Ooh, yeah. When I feel that I just can't go on, and every ounce of strength is gone, I remember that he's always there to comfort me. And when I feel this life is just too tough, and the burdens won't let me lift my feet, I remember that his love is enough for me. Is just enough for me. No, I won't fall away. I won't stand in the middle eternity, and my Elohim is the